Brad Ferguson is not at home. And
I'm not.
if you carefully look at the background that he's got, maybe you'd be able to put it together. Maybe we should wait until the end to tell him. I'd forget. I would forget for sure. So you're down in Florida
Orlando, Florida at the Mouse House.
at the Mouse House, and today was Epcot, right?
That's true.
Have you already done the Disney side?
Yeah, we did Magic Kingdom on Monday and Hollywood Studios on Wednesday.
Mhm.
So it's been a good trip at the various parks here.
Nice. I guess you don't have a California adventure there.
No, we do not.
It makes sense. Well, let's see. Let's see what's going on. Whoops. Oh, good. That's good, Randy. You got the wrong list. Here we go. According to some posting you put up the other day, it says here, Matt Smith strikes again,
Hmm.
and somebody called BE, Brookfield and Bloom Energy announced a $5 billion strategic AI infrastructure partnership with, let's see here, AI infrastructure, no, joint AI
Yeah,
infrastructure.
so
Yeah.
it's Bloom with Brookfield. So
Oh,
Brookfield is a big AI infrastructure data center provider.
okay.
And they're going to use Bloom as one of their primary providers of electricity on a go-forward basis.
Nice. So this is a $5 billion deal. And I guess that didn't help the stock at all.
It did a couple days ago when this was announced.
Right.
Yeah, so Brookfield is a big player in infrastructure. So they, I don't know, create the sites, do all the hookups. I think they do some of the engineering. They lease them out. So like there's this whole leasing thing that happens with like the between the hyperscalers and the infrastructure people. And what the hyperscalers or the user of the data center likes to do is they like to pay for power like we all do. It's like, yeah, 16 cents a kilowatt hour or whatever it is, by the megawatt hour or whatever. They don't want to pay all the upfront cost.
Uh-huh.
So what investors will do is they'll come in, they'll pay the upfront costs, and then they'll lease back the data centers to the hyperscalers, things like that.
Yeah.
So Bloom Energy, they make natural gas fuel cells, which are not fuel cells like Nikola
Cool cells.
Motors or like Elon talks about, but it's a real technology. And it's a way for data centers to produce power when many of the natural gas turbine makers are sold out.
Right. Right. Yeah. So then I think you went on to ask the question. You were like, what do you need batteries for? Why can't you just use these ultra capacitors, which I think Bloom Energy uses ultra capacitors? So I didn't know. I know
Mhm.
that Elon Musk, when he was going to go to university, when he thought he was going to go to
Yeah.
Stanford, his whole thing was going to be ultra capacitors, and he was going to show the world that you could use ultra capacitors for all these new things. So anyway, you asked the question, what can batteries do for data centers that ultra capacitors can't? And so I thought, okay, I don't know. And you
Ask
don't.
Grok.
I asked Grok, of course I did. All right.
Yeah.
So capacitors are only good for 10 seconds generally and maximum 30 seconds. So they can help
Yeah.
move the system into full power, or they can, act as something to restart it if it's fallen
Yeah.
down.
And that's
So
that's a real key thing that you need with data centers. There's these really quick wobbles
right,
in the power because you have like over 100,000 GPUs that Elon says are like singing the symphony, and
right.
they needed to do some extraordinary engineering on the megapacks so that the megapacks could be like really responsive and dialing the power up and down.
Mhm.
But you can also do that with ultra capacitors.
Yeah, and so Grok says that you need a contingency for startup failures or delays. If the primary generator fails to start within 10 to 15 seconds, a real risk in 1 to 5% of events, Due to mechanical issues or testing protocols, batteries give operators 2 to 10 minutes to attempt a second start and switch to a backup generator or initiate an orderly shutdown.
Mm.
And then load transfer and stability buffer, even successful startups involve a phased transfer of load during which power quality must remain stable. Batteries ensure no dips occur, absorbing harmonics. There you go, your harmonics again, or imbalances that ultracapacitors might not handle at full scale. And then regulatory and operational compliance. Some places require something that can do more than the ultracapacitors, which may or may not be needed, but the regulatory folks are in there. So those are the things. And so kind of my general sense of reading
Yeah.
it was maybe ultracapacitors along with, but maybe not as many batteries as you would
Yeah.
need normally.
Yeah, so I don't think you necessarily need batteries to do all the work. You can pair ultracapacitors either with the natural gas turbines or natural gas fuel cells or whatever your firm source of power is at the data centers. And that in Memphis, one of the sources of firm power is the hydroelectric from the Tennessee Valley Authority.
Yeah. So they've got plenty for that. All right. So that gives us the answer.
So ultra capacitors are pretty can be pretty expensive too. So
Oh,
one of the exciting things about the natural gas fuel cells for Bloom is they're very early in Wright's law as far
mm,
as
mm,
um, lowering their costs over time.
sure.
So they're about to have a year or so where their production is going to be equal or surpassing like all their previous production.
Wow.
So
Very good.
that reduces your costs rather significantly. Um, so I think you can have something similar happen if ultra capacitors are used more with data centers.
Mhm.
Kind of like the cost of LiDAR has come down greatly
Right.
with how prevalent they are now with with some cars,
Yes, yes.
not with Teslas.
So Brad Smith and Matt Smith rather. I just
Mhm.
did a video. So I got something else going. Oh, Brad Smith, I think, is going to help with the audio version of the book. So I've
Okay.
got you're Brad and he's Brad and he's Smith and he's Smith. Anyway,
Yeah,
so it's
there's a Bradley Smith who's a ALS cyborg on X. And
okay.
he is patient number 6, I think, for
Oh,
Neuralink. So
yeah,
he's
that's not this guy.
no, not that guy. Okay. Different
Okay.
Brad Smith.
Another Brad Smith. Anyway, so Matt Smith, though, he had to wait. He had to be patient here because you guys first talked about BE on my channel, I want to say 18 months ago.
Yeah.
And then I asked you about it one day and you kind of turned beet red because it wasn't like happening as fast as everybody hoped.
Yeah.
But now it's paid off. You
Yeah,
got
we were early and then we got back in early this year um, because we saw some regulatory approvals
Mhm,
happening in Ohio.
mhm,
Those ended up happening. There's also a really big deal that is probably around a $3 billion deal where air permits have been filed for this in Wyoming, but only one investment bank has talked about it with Bloom Energy.
mhm.
So I think people really aren't aware about this other deal, even though it did pop the stock a little bit, but it wasn't like this transformational pop for Bloom. We still think there's more room to run for the stock. Not financial advice, but we still own it
Gotcha,
um,
gotcha.
for
Okay.
clients.
Well, there's been a quite a dust up on X over the last few days among the faithful. So we've got Farzad and Eric and you and Warren and a whole
Mm.
bunch of other folks who are all convinced that they are now the experts on two-seater vehicles and what should be done with the
The
Cybercab.
Cybercab and
Yeah, yeah.
whether it has a wheel and pedals or not.
Whether they offer that as an option. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, as a wheel. So let's see if I have it right. The idea would be we don't know where the regulations are right now on Cybercab. We're ready,
yeah.
practically ready to go.
Yeah, there's a critical thing that I think most bulls are not aware of. So it's the Federal Motor Vehicle Safety Standards, FMVSS, and you can look this up, and you're limited to 2,500 vehicles running at one time that have no steering wheel or pedal.
Right.
So with that limit in mind, like if the regulation doesn't change, Tesla would literally be limited to only making 2,500 or only running 2,500, and then they couldn't sell the other 2,500 because people can't use them.
Right. Right. Right.
Um, and they can't just like arbitrarily create a bunch of other companies, that
Yeah,
they could
right.
run the 2,500 under. Um,
Oh, they might.
so So we're wondering, and Farzad brought up this issue. Okay, it does Tesla know that this regulation is going to change by the time
Yeah. Yeah.
Tesla's ready to make the cybercabs, or does Tesla need to be thinking about a version of this that has a steering wheel and pedals? Because we know, at least in testing, they're able to put this in
Right.
to
Right.
it.
Yeah. So I think Brian White says it's more complicated than we think.
Mhm.
And maybe the ones that we're seeing in testing might be Scotch tape and baling wire. We're not sure. Um, so um, so Warren Redlick, I thought came up with the best answer I've seen so far. He says the Mazda Miata is the most successful two-seater car in America, and it's a
Mhm.
cute car, good-looking car, nice trappings, well done. 30,000 a year. That's how many they sell.
Wow. I'm shocked by that. Well, I'm not surprised by that actually, because it is a nice car. It's very well balanced. I think it's a little higher end,
Okay.
um,
Yeah, probably.
because it's like so well engineered and balanced. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So anyway, that was interesting. So you said though that it would be possible.
Yeah, it could be steer by wire. So
Yeah,
if you put in a steering wheel and pedal, you could still run it as a robotaxi and just deactivate the wheel and pedal when it's running autonomously. Because if it's steer by wire, then you just sever the connection. So then, it doesn't, if there's a kid or someone messing with the wheel, they would have no impact on the
let's lock it
car.
out. Yeah, lock it out. Yeah, that was my thinking too. I think Brian said that the wheel was the easy part and the brake was the hard part. That there's no way
Yeah.
to lock out the brake. So you could have the situation where somebody would somehow, I guess, hit the brake, which that seems like a very low likelihood, but maybe that's a real thing. I'm not sure.
There is a
Um,
way to make it brake by wire, but Tesla hasn't done that yet. So they didn't do it yet for the Cybertruck.
right,
So that would be a something they would need to innovate on, but
right.
it is possible to do.
Yeah, there are brake by wire things like I don't know airplanes. I think are brake by wire, aren't they?
Mhm.
I know that they have a lot of the same wire, not steering, whatever. No, there's a word for that. What do they call that in an airplane? They don't call it steering. All right, we'll just stop now. So the Department of Transportation, Duffy, I forget his
Mhm.
first name. Duffy's the Secretary of Transportation. He says that they're planning to change the rules about autonomous vehicles in the spring.
In the spring, okay.
In the spring. Now, does that mean that the 2,500 will have to wait until the spring for the overall, situation in terms of changing the rules? I don't know. Could there be some kind of an interim situation where where more than 2,500 vehicles could be out there? Don't
Yeah.
know. So that does seem to be an interesting story.
And some will say, well, you could just run the Model Y as robotaxi, and I totally agree.
Yeah, yeah, 100%. Yeah,
And Tesla probably can make more Model Y than they can field as robotaxis.
right,
For sure, but you have this potentially million unit capacity for the Cybercab
right,
that you would be limiting to 2,500,
right.
if the regulation didn't change. So I do hope they address it in the spring. What didn't give me much confidence is that they mentioned three other things that they were going to change with these outdated
Mhm.
FM, FMVSS rules, and none of them were around the wheel or the pedals.
Yes, yes,
I think one was maybe about wiper fluid, or another was about like the transmission or something. Uh,
yes, yes.
so them not mentioning the wheel and pedals gave me a little cause for concern. Like, okay, are they actually going to address autonomy in the spring or not?
Right, right. So one of
Maybe
my
I'm just being too nerdy.
yeah, and one of my theories on this is that even though I don't think the President of the United States is going to pick up the phone and call Duffy and say, make this happen,
Mhm.
I think Duffy knows that,
Yeah,
he should be looking out for Elon. So
yeah, yeah. Uh, Probably are going to be okay. Like they're probably going to change the
right,
regulation
right.
for Tesla and Waymo and others. But I, as a business owner, I don't like hoping for things to change.
Yes,
I
yes.
like to have, more confidence in that.
So so maybe that will be asked at the meeting on next Wednesday. We'll see. How much does Elon and or the Tesla executive group, how much knowledge do they have about regulations that they're now they got the new chart that went up and it showed, on a chart of where Tesla is in all these different cities.
Mhm.
And it showed that they were in the process of getting regulatory approval in multiple of those places. So apparently they do have a skilled set of folks out there talking to these uh, Department of
Yeah.
Transportation individuals at the state level or regional level or city level. So hopefully it's all coming together, but I'd like Elon to speak about it. I hope he does.
And Sawyer Merritt had the good idea to, request the information to see if Tesla has filed in various areas.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So
Good deal.
he's reporting on that as he hears back.
So the tariff situation gave us a heartburn on Friday, and then a little more heartburn on Tuesday. And
Mhm.
then today we had a regional bank that was apparently a couple of regional banks actually having some problems with debt. So the market took another tumble. Is this news driven or is this really driven by the fact that the market is so high that people are just looking for any excuse because the earnings so far are crazy good?
Mhm. Yeah, my sense is that people become complacent in general, are being kind of FOMO-y. And when we experience some of these drops, it's related more to, risk off or deleveraging, where people are, maybe they have margin, or maybe they have some options positions, or maybe they're just a little too concentrated, and then you have these big drops, and then people will panic, and some might get margin called. They might be close already, even though, like, we're way up here, we're not down here anymore.
Right, right.
Um, so, eh, but like, people have just gotten so aggressive at this point. I'm guessing that there could be some margin calls, but mainly it's just, I think people are skittish. Friday we had this huge crypto washout that happened.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah.
Um, so there were some big moves with Bitcoin and Ethereum, but a lot of these, I'll call them meme coins. Those had pretty significant drops.
Yeah. Yeah, and some of that came back, but today, especially Bitcoin, went down strongly again today.
Mhm.
So I think it's 107 now. So it's having a rough week. Meanwhile, gold is crazy. So I put out a whole bunch of my calls the other day, and one of my calls was that interest rates, 10-year bonds would get below 4 before the end of the month, before the end of October.
Mm.
I got that one today. We're now at 3.97. So you see, I should really trade bonds. I've done so well with my calls on bonds.
Mm.
But in the meantime, let me check it
So
here.
the call wasn't that it needed to stay below four, is that
It would
was it that
go
we were going to finish below four or that
as long as it finished the day
touch below four?
it has to go finish the
Okay.
trading day below four. I
Okay.
think it'll stay under four. It might bounce back and forth a little bit, but let me see what's happening with gold because last time I looked, it was going up and to the right. So 43.75 up $71. So one of my other calls was that gold would be at 34 before it was at 44. So it's got
Mhm.
to stop now. We're only $30 away.
We're seeing some cracks in the system. So you mentioned a regional bank. You had there's a couple countries that have been asking for more dollars from the US. So there's these currency swaps that happen, and
Mhm.
one of them was South Korea. So South
Wow.
Korea's got a pretty good economy, and they were begging for dollars. Now the U.S. they're not just freely
Right.
providing the dollar warehouse like they used to, so they're using it more as a tool recently. Argentina, they're historically very shaky, so they were one of the others. So you have these central banks from China and other countries accumulating gold.
Mhm.
They might be getting have a bit of scarcity with dollars, and there's these strains that are happening. Also with lending markets, um, some lending with homes and with automobiles. There's some cracks under the
Right.
surface.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah. I think on the
For
auto,
example, I heard recently FHA loans allegedly 15% of they've allowed for payments to be delayed
oh,
um or forgiven. So like that's not a good statistic right there.
well, and we've gotten into a situation not unlike the COVID situation where the housing prices are really, really, really high.
Mhm.
And now they're starting to come down, especially in some regions. So some people who bought at the top can get trapped just like people that bought at the top on Tesla Model Ys. And then all of a sudden got caught underwater. I did see a statistic on cars where a fairly substantial number of cars right now are underwater. That doesn't mean people run away from them, but they are, underwater, in terms of their equity. Uh,
Yeah, so the value of the car has dropped below
right,
the balance on the loan,
right.
which can happen.
Yeah. So we'll see. I think the housing market will turn around. I've been saying that as the mortgages drop down, we could have mortgages below six tomorrow
Mm.
with this drop in the 10-year. So we'll see if it's below six. That it will definitely spur even at 6.2 or whatever. I mean 6.02, you'll see people running into the market. But if it gets down into 5.9, 5.95, I think you'll see a big, big jump in the number of people because I've been talking to my realtor across the street, and they do a fair amount of business. He says they got lots of people shopping,
Mm.
and nobody, they're just not pulling the cord because of the mortgage rates.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a couple markets. So there was just a change where at the FHA, they're not allowing H-1B visa owners to get FHA loans.
Okay.
Um, so FHA loans are tend to be extended to people who aren't quite, prime borrowers. They might be first-time borrowers.
Mhm.
But they allowed H-1B visa holders to do those. So they might be kid from another country that went to college in the US and maybe have a tech job or similar. And now that they're not able to get that work, I mean, to get
H1B.
that mortgage through FHA, they'll have to pay a much higher rate and they won't be able to afford much of a house as they could otherwise.
Hmm.
And this is going to affect certain markets where H-1B visa holders are more prevalent.
So I've been talking about this on X all week because I was trying to make a case for the fact if you want to get into a starter home, you can. It
Hmm.
might have to be a condo. It might have to be a manufactured home or a trailer. It might have to be a townhouse as opposed to a single family detached home. But that even at 6% interest rates, even with the high price of homes right now, if you are willing to go out in the boonies a little bit, or you're willing to go in a little bit of a sketchy neighborhood,
Yeah.
generally speaking, most people that are making that their family income is 75, 80,000 a year can find a way. So I asked Grok and I went into three different locations. I went into Paris, California. And Paris, California is just down the block from me, and it's kind of a sketchy neighborhood. And
Mhm.
but the starting for a
Let's
single
not call it sketchy. Let's call it working class, maybe.
working class, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, sketchy would be more appropriate. Anyway, it's not working. I mean, it's probably working class, but it's got a lot of crime. Okay, or at
Okay.
least more than other neighborhoods.
Mhm.
But the for a single family detached, you're looking at about 275 as a starting point. So then I asked about where was the
Yeah.
forget the third one, but I
Yeah,
thought I
I
did
think
ask
maybe
about I
I
did
think
ask
maybe
about
you could
Carmel.
I think maybe you could do a house like that if you had two people working and
Yeah.
getting like 80,000 each. So, um, this is just my opinion. We do a lot of financial planning at Halter Ferguson, and
Mhm.
Rebellionaire is a brand of that. I think in general, people should only get a mortgage or get into a house where the value of the house is two times their income.
Okay.
So if your gross income is 160, then the top of what you should try to do is 320.
Mhm.
And what that does is it allows you to save um, on top of that. So
Mhm.
it allows you to continually build up some savings and investments. Whereas if you go to three times your income or higher, it becomes a lot more difficult to save.
Right. I know. I remember the third city now. I went into Owine, Iowa. Even though you live nearby, you probably don't know Owine. Maybe you do. I happened to stay there for a week in one summer when I was a kid. Anyway, Owine, Iowa, you can get into a house for under 100,000. So then I asked for Carmel, Indiana,
Yeah.
and it was 250,000 was the lowest detached private dwelling. So you guys are kind of uppity.
Yeah, Carmel's a little more expensive to live in. It is a nicer town near Indianapolis.
Right, 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 right. Anyway, so yeah, so it seems to me that the president has been on the right track earlier this year before, when he was running for office, talking about the making some land, some federal lands that again might be a little more out of town,
Hmm.
available to builders, whether they sell the land at a little lower cost. They usually all that does is mean the builder makes more money. But but
Yeah.
one way or the other, making some space
Bring
available,
it up. Yeah.
bring it up, and trying to get some new homes built that are more in that $200,000 range for single family detached. And maybe that would, be because that seems to be the sweet spot. Like you said, that's 100,000 for two people if two people together can make 100,000, they can buy a $200,000 house. And I think that could happen. I don't know.
I think in a lot of cities, um, there can be zoning issues where zoning is just too tight
Right.
and it doesn't allow for the affordability. I know that's a big issue, like out in Seattle
Yeah.
and
Oh, well, West Coast, forget
some
it.
on the West Coast. Like
Yeah.
they're just way too restrictive, and that ends up driving up the cost of housing for
Yeah.
people.
Yeah. Yeah. Like I said, Paris is starting point is higher than Carmel. Okay. And
Yeah.
that's, yeah, believe me, Carmel's a lot nicer than Paris. Sorry, Paris. Sorry if anybody listening is from Paris. All right. So, what else have we got on the? So, gold. What do you think's going to happen though? So we left that alone. I mean, it's been going
Yeah.
up like this, like crazy. Usually, my thinking is anything that goes up like that is eventually that goes up that fast is probably going to come back down that fast. What do you think?
Yeah, so what you might also be referencing is over the last 5 years, gold has outperformed the Nasdaq.
Yes.
It's shocking.
Yeah.
It's really, really shocking. Um, so that seems a bit scary, just like on its face. And typically when you have an asset that's the best performing over the last 5 years, you generally want to be shying away from that. But this administration seems to be using dollars or the dollar market in a different way, and other central banks are reacting to that. They're buying up gold, and they're trying to get more dollars, and I I think it could continue to be a bit self-fulfilling. I'm not a big fan of gold with investing because it's just a commodity. It sits there, it doesn't create a dividend, it doesn't create earnings.
Right.
I'd rather own a productive asset that creates earnings or creates an income
Right.
from it.
Right. Right. Okay. All right. So Tesla, we're sitting a week away from the earnings call.
Mhm.
I asked Grok a little while ago. I said, "Hey, Grok, what's Tesla going to make? How much per share?"
Mhm.
And Grok came back at 88 cents. Now the street's at 55. And so I asked Grok, I said, "How come? What do you think? What do you think the difference is? Why do you think you're so much higher than the street?"
Mhm.
And Grok was like, "The street is too low on the margins for the cars because the
Mhm.
cars would have done good on the margins for that
Right.
quarter. The street is completely oblivious to energy,
Right.
which was a big increase, like a 50% increase over the quarter two. And so he says, I think, so he, Grok says, I think, so I'm at 88 cents. Now, Grok also said he,
S- So you're just with Grok, you're like, I'm
no,
at 88 cents, or
no. So, but
Grok said I'm at 88.
Grok says he's 88.
Okay.
But then Grok says that he wasn't taking any consideration for a reduction in ZEV credits. So I'm
Hmm.
taking away a dime because I think it's like 300 million going to
Hmm.
come off the ZEV credits. So at 10 cents off, that would put us at 78. 2 or 3 weeks ago, I said I was between 65 and 75. So now I'm gonna stick with my 65 to 75 and make it 75. And I'll forget the 65. I think we're really gonna beat the street by a bunch.
Yeah, I would be in that camp.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Cool. That should be good.
Tesla really didn't do much as far as discounts in the third quarter.
Right.
So I think margins should be strong, and you're right about energy. We came in a lot stronger than previous quarter, and your margins should be very good with energy. So I'm looking forward to what they're going to report. I think it'll be a strong, positive surprise. I don't know if it'll move the stock. Guidance on the fourth quarter will be key. I'm curious if Wall Street analysts are going to ask about the next quarter because you had the $7,500 tax credit ending.
Right.
Um, and we're wondering, okay, what's demand like for the fourth quarter? I think that would be a great question to ask for Wall Street. Wall Street tends to be short-term thinking, so
Yeah.
that's a great question for them. That's a good short-term question.
It,
Where do they see demand for the fourth and first quarters? Are the Model 3 and Y standard, is that the extent of the affordable models, or is there something else that's coming? Um, so I think those are some key questions.
so Brian Wong and I have been chasing that one around a little bit. We were thinking that the Model YL could make up all of the reduction in the $7,500 going away. So we could be looking at like 40,000, 50, 60,000 cars of the Model YL in China over and above expectations. We saw 90,000 in September compared to like, I don't know, 63 or something thousand the previous month. So overall, it looks like there's a real shot at picking up 40 to 50,000 cars in China. Also, the fourth quarter is always good in China. And in fact, sometimes it's up. In fact, the average is up 44%, and the worst has been 22 over the last 5 years. So even if we got a 22% increase per the normal, that would maybe make up for all the losses of vehicles in the United States. So that, and then energy will be up again also, because we'll have, I think, more energy coming out of Shanghai.
Yeah, I would say so. The Shanghai numbers should continue to be a contributor for Tesla. I don't see why like Shanghai couldn't, routinely be at 3 to 4 gigawatt hours.
Could be more because what we've heard is it's fully ramped. That's the rumor
Yeah.
is that it's fully ramped at this point. So we could be looking at 17 or 18 total between the three.
Yeah, that would be huge if that was the case.
Right.
I wouldn't be holding my breath to that point.
Well, I'll just hold it until January 2nd, then I'll let out. All right. Anything else on the list that I've missed that is important in your mind right now, other than getting back out there for more amusement?
Well, version 14.1.2
Oh,
added
yeah. Yeah.
Mad Max mode, but
Yeah.
it's just doing it very safely. So it's changing lanes like a maestro out there. It's reduced some of the braking issues that the early version 14 had. So it seems to be doing really well. So I think we're on track. You know, right now is the 16th of October. They talked about maybe Cybertrucks getting version 14 by the end of this month. I think we could see a wider rollout by the end of this month or within the next like 4 weeks or so. It seems to be very good, and I'm anxious to get my hands on it.
So I have another one of my calls, and this call is going to be that the safety riders coming out of the vehicles on November 6th.
That would be pretty good.
Maybe November 5th, because everybody be arriving on November
Yeah.
5th looking for a ride. So anyway, in time for the shareholders meeting, to me would make total sense. You want the shareholders to come in and get a ride without anybody sitting there putting their thumb on the scale.
Yeah. That'd be exciting, and I hope they surround the shareholders with optimists.
Yeah.
Like at We Robot, there were around 20 optimists at that event,
Yeah.
so they could have many more at the shareholder meetings. I think that would be pretty fun if they did that.
Sounds like they're planning to have more than a few. Yeah.
Yeah, could be a good time.
All right. Okay. All right, Bradford. I'll let you get back to playing with your family because, you're on vacation, but thank you for coming even in the middle of your vacation. So kind of you.
Absolutely. And let's get right to the numbers.
You got it. All right. Sorry, I'm having a little bit of a rough day here. Hopefully, it's going to get better soon. Um, let's go ahead and get right to the numbers if I can find them here. Tesla, which was down $6.40, or I just hit it wrong, or 1.47% in the after hours, down another 0.66. So we're sitting at 425.95 or close enough to 426. We've been here before, I think just a few days ago. So a lot of up and downs right now. It's October, right? That's what's supposed to happen. We talked about some of the reasons, and quite frankly, if you look at it, I don't know about you, I have my little thing set up to where I have the Nasdaq, the S&P, and the whoops and the Dow Jones right with Tesla. So that's what my main page is to have those three indices right by Tesla, and that way I can see, is Tesla moving with the market? Then I don't start looking for reasons why Tesla's moving funny. So if you look at it today, you can see that Tesla's moving exactly the same as the markets. So that's just another little theory I have is what is Tesla moving like? And is it moving on its own? And therefore, is something happening within the company, within the way the stockholders are looking at Tesla? Or is it something that is just totally market driven? Then the other thing I have is I have a bunch of the Cathie Woods in another grouping. So these are Cathie Wood type stocks. These are disruptive stocks. Most of them are early stage, unlike Tesla, or middle stage, like a PayPal or in a Block. I also have 𝐅𝐫𝐚𝐲 and 𝐅𝐵 in there, CRISPR, which is early stage. So anyway, you could maybe make up your own set. And what I do there is sometimes Tesla is moving like these guys. And what does that mean to me? That means it's probably a bond issue or an interest rate issue because these stocks are heavily impacted by the interest rates because it affects valuation. As you're looking out several years and you're seeing, okay, this is what I see the stock being worth in several years, and then you discount back to present value. If the discount number is lower, then the value of the stock goes up. If interest rates go up, that means you have to use a higher number to discount back, and then the value of stock goes down. So these are just a couple of little analytical things that I do. You may have a completely different way of doing it, but that's how I've got it set up. And so that might help you understand how I do things sometimes or why I say what I say on various occasions. So anyway, let's go ahead and take a look at the rest of the market. As mentioned, the bonds did finally have a big time rally today. We're sitting at 3.975. I believe we're going to stay under 4%. But it could, again, it could pop up and pop down, but I think directionally this is the way we're going. And so the next goal would be 3.75. I'm not putting a call on that yet, but that is certainly the next level. As we go into the cuts by the Fed, traditionally, the direction of the Fed impacts the direction of the 10-year. Doesn't have to, doesn't always, and certainly we saw two examples recently where it didn't at all. But right now, it's looking to me like the bond market is paying attention to these Fed rate cuts. Okay, what about the? I've got things out of order here, so I don't know what to do. If it's not in the right order. Oil is unchanged, believe it or not, at 57.46. That is the lowest I think I've seen it. Oil dropped 1% today. Probably more to do with the Trump-Putin summit. So maybe the president now has taken enough off of his table that he now has time to concentrate on the Russia-Ukraine situation. And who knows, maybe next week when he meets with Putin, they'll get a solution underway. Natural gas down a little bit. We're back under $3 at 292. Gold, as mentioned, 61.90 for the day so far in the pre-market, up. So 43.66. So it's got, in order for my call to work, we can't finish the day above 4,400. We'll see what happens in the next few days. Silver up 0.37%, 53.50, not up as much as gold, which is unusual. And then copper is under $5 again at $4.98. The dollar is mixed, and Bitcoin down, as I mentioned, down 3,031 today at 108.3. I think it was down even more just a little while ago. Ethereum down 2.5% compared to Bitcoin's 2.73. So Ethereum is now setting at 38.91. What about tomorrow morning? Well, the equities right now are heading down again, just like we saw Tesla continuing to follow the market into the after hours. The Dow is down 0.2, S&P down 0.31, and NASDAQ also down 0.31. You also might want to look at the technicals for the overall markets. We know that we were at all-time highs a couple of weeks ago, maybe even Thursday, maybe last Thursday. Then Friday, we had the big sell-off, and then up, and then down, and then up. What we might be doing now is testing those tops, and that could be part of the problem. We're going to have to break through the previous highs on the S&P in order to get the market to go to the next level. What could do that? Obviously, a great meeting next week with Putin, a great meeting next week with Xi. Now we understand that maybe the president has also had a conversation with Kim at North Korea. Who knows? Who knows what's going to happen by the time this administration ends. All right, that's all. Oh, let's see, what can I tell you? Oh, CERN Basher's coming up in just about 3 hours. Be CERN Basher. Tomorrow's a normal day. And then yesterday night, you still could go back. I would highly recommend you go back and take a look at the conversation that I had with Jeff Lutz. Believe me, you want to go back and take a look at that one. It was absolutely bonkers. So now that's all I've got for you. It has been great talking to you.